Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. If you're joining us on YouTube, we have got so much to talk about today. We're going to chat about the FIFA Window Tournament preview. So make sure you like, subscribe, leave us a comment on this video. Welcome to Attacking Third. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. We're chatting all things FIFA Tournament Window. If you're listening to this as a podcast, make sure you leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. Those likes really help us out. Those 5-star reviews really help us out. And if you're joining us on YouTube, subscribe to us at youtube.com/attacking third to get all sorts of exclusive content, previews, recaps, interviews, all right here on A3. Lisa, we asked the people, we said, do you want us to talk about the FIFA February International Window? And everyone said yes. We got a big a lot of responses, a lot of feedback from that. They said, yeah, we want to hear you guys talk about what's going on during this window because it's a massive window. And I can't wait to talk about it all with you. How you doing
It's
today?
huge. I mean, there's so many different tournaments happening. There's a lot of great competition. Honestly, the worst part about it is it's all happening like on the same days. Like match days are the same
Yeah.
across all these tournaments. So get your multiple screens going. Just make a lot of food, right? Like meal prep for the day. So you can just like sit on the couch and watch all these games back to back to back to back because they're across the world, they're across the globe. So you've got your different time zones in there in which it's pretty early in the morning, depending on where you are. And then all the way through to some evening matches. That's like only the trickiest thing about this is I want to make sure I can consume all of it in real time, right? I'm not a big like record a game, watch it later person. I like to watch it live, but it's so exciting. This is like our first glimpse of these top nations, especially in the tournaments that we're going to talk about today that have teams going to the World Cup. And that's what the focus is for all of these different nations. I'm so jazzed about this international window.
I think the key word there is it's window, right? You hit it spot on. I think there's going to be multiple matches happening around the same span of time. This official like window block, I believe, is dated from February 13th, actually, all the way through the 22nd. And a good chunk of what's going to happen within these windows are some of these round robin style tournaments. You've heard us chat about She Believes Cup a bit already. We have a segment out there on Arnold Clark. You can catch that on Paramount Plus, just letting you all know. So there has been a lot of things a couple of them that we've chatted about already. But that was just two of the many that are going to take place. So along with Arnold Clark Cup, along with She Believes Cup, there's going to be, the Tournoi de France. There's going to be the Revelations Cup, the Cup of Nations, the Pinatar Cup, the Cyprus Women's Cup. Alanya Women's Tournament is also going to take place. And there is going to be the official Inter-Confederation Playoff that takes place during this window of time as well. That's right. There are still 3 spots up for grabs in this upcoming World Cup, and there are going to be 10 teams battling it out to try and go ahead and earn those final 3 spots. But let's maybe run through some of these respective round robin style tournaments. Unique opportunities here, right? I think we've heard a bit from players already. Alex Morgan doing some media availability ahead of She Believes Cup. That's the perspective. The perspective is that this is sort of a real final prep stage for many World Cup bound teams in the timeline leading up to the World Cup, that this is really the only window of time for many of these World Cup teams to play multiple matches in a short window of time that kind of mirrors a bit of a group stage play where you just sort of have chunks of games throughout the span of maybe a week to possibly 9 or 10 days. So there's definitely that a lot of teams that are carrying, I think, that energy with them going into this window. And I think when we're looking at all of these competitions one after the other, you can look throughout each of these tournaments and you can find a handful to at least one World Cup bound team represented throughout them. So while we talked about She Believes Cup and we've spoken a little bit about Arnold Clark Cup, We haven't really talked about Cup of Nations, so let's start with that one. This is really, really exciting, not just because of the teams that are involved, but this is a special time for this particular tournament because it's like the return of this
Yeah.
round robin tournament. It's been absent for about 4 years now. The very first one took place in 2019, right? Hosted by Australia. That's already a big thing right there. They are the co-host of the upcoming 2023 World Cup. But the pandemic kind of really threw a wrench in a lot of things, and we did not see the Cup of Nations for quite some time. So while it started off as this very cool thing, cool idea, we saw Australia, New Zealand, I believe Argentina was involved at the time in the first one.
Mhm.
Now we've got this second iteration of it. Finally, 4 years later, Australia, still the hosts, but they are going to welcome Jamaica, Spain, and Czech Republic to this tournament.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this. And I think that honestly, from my readings and kind of what I figured out, that this tournament, a main big reason that it's coming back is because Australia and New Zealand is hosting the World Cup. So this is an opportunity. I mean, the last opportunity really for Australia to compete at home before the World Cup. But this is a really cool tournament. I'm really glad it's back. Australia is the reigning champions right now at this point. But this year and in this iteration of the tournament, there is Australia, Jamaica, Spain, and Czech Republic are all in this tournament. So, top teams, right? You look at a team like Jamaica going back to the World Cup, like pretty jazzed about that and joining this tournament. When you look at Jamaica, 44th FIFA ranking, they finished third, right, in the CONCACAF W Championship that happened last summer, and they got wins over Haiti and Mexico in their group stage. They're on their way right now. Most recently, I believe Jamaica split games with Paraguay at the end of 2022. They won one and they lost one. So now for Jamaica, what an opportunity for them to travel to Australia and to compete in this tournament ahead of the World Cup. Like that is a huge leg up for these types of nations. I mean, we talked about it. The United States just did it in January during that window because they really wanted to replicate what it was going to be like traveling in New Zealand between different stadiums, finishing a match, getting showered up in the locker room, and then jumping right back on the plane. And now Czech Republic, Spain, and Jamaica all get to experience that in this Cup of Nations. So, in looking at these different nations, I gave you a little tidbit on Jamaica with Czech Republic. They're 28th ranking in the FIFA rankings right now. Remember, Czech Republic was in the She Believes Cup last year
Mhm.
and drew with the United States 0-0. They also tied 0-0 England at the end of last year, but this is a team that's not in the World Cup. They finished third in their group in qualifications. They didn't make it. So Czech Republic is not going to the World Cup. But they're a really, really top quality team. And sometimes it just comes down to the federations and the other competitions in those federations, right? Because Czech Republic is a really strong team. So I'm glad they're in this tournament and I'm glad they can compete. And I think going up against a team like Spain, number 7th in the FIFA World Rankings, they're headed into their third World Cup. They just crushed their qualifications. Spain did. I mean, this is a team that has been through a lot of adversity, right? Remember the Euros last year, Alexia Putellas getting injured. They then get out in the quarterfinals of the Euros, but at the end of 2022, they left a sour taste in a lot of different nations, United States being one of them, Argentina, Japan. Those were the final 3 games for this Spanish side at the end of 2022. And now they go into this tournament against a team like Australia, right? Czech Republic, Jamaica. I'm jazzed about this one. I really, really am. I mean, we just talked about the other day, Bunny Shaw and what that Jamaican international is doing in the Women's Super League. She's leading the Golden Boot race at this point. Like, and now the international window is here. I'm really jazzed about this. I'm excited to see the competition. I'm excited to watch Jamaica. I am. I've got to be honest. CONCACAF fam here. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see them.
No, I'm with you. I know that that was something that we wanted to keep an eye on during this particular
Mhm.
window. Like how are some of the CONCACAF participating nations going to fare during this time, right? So we know that for She Believes Cup, We're gonna get a close up on United States women's national team, obviously Canadians women's national team, but in this Cup of Nations, we've got Jamaica to sort of keep an eye on. And I guess like when we're hearing you sort of talk about all four of the teams a little bit who are participating in this one, Australia as host, right? This is maybe unlike some other competitions that are going to be taking place during this
Mhm.
window. For Australia, they get, yes, both the opportunity to go up against other World Cup qualified talent, but they also get a go around as hosts in this one as well. So they're getting ready to host the World Cup, and now they are hosting this Cup of Nations. They also get a little bit of experience in this window doing that as well. So when we're looking at these four teams in front of us, when we're even looking at things like numbers, right? When it Even though
Mhm.
Australia is the host, we've got Spain that are ranked a little bit higher than them in the overall rankings. Is there any team that you're looking at amongst these four that are gonna walk away or go into this tournament as sort of clear favorites? Who do you have maybe like walking away with the cup in the Cup of Nations?
Although it is Australia home field advantage and they've got that on their sides, Spain, it has to be
Yeah,
Spain in this one. Even despite maybe some of the injuries to some star players on their roster at this point, Spain is the clear favorite in my opinion. And I think when you look at kind of how the tournament is laid out, um, it starts right on the opening day, but I believe it's Thursday is the same as every other tournament that we're going to talk about in this FIFA International Window. It's Spain against Jamaica and then Australia against Czech Republic. So Spain and Jamaica, like I'm really excited for that game, but I just think that Spain's going to come out and kind of dominate a little bit against Jamaica, who they play first, then they play Australia, and then they play Czech Republic. Yeah, Spain hands down is my favorite. What about you? When you look at these sides, do you have a favorite? Who do you think is going to give that
yeah.
favorite some trouble? What are you expecting?
I don't know if I have a favorite, in this one, but I'm in agreement with you in that Spain is likely going to be the team to come into this tournament and give all the other teams some problems. And some like real fits, like yes, Australia is gonna have a lot of things behind them, whether it's just the lay of the stadiums and comforts of home and training and no travel in the sense of they are the ones that have to leave their host country. They have all the like those things that I guess could be considered
The fans?
advantages, so I do see Spain kind of maybe coming out on top in this one, but I don't know if it'll be a cakewalk for them because
Mhm.
of the type of tournament it is, these round robin tournaments. It's all about the points in the end. So it could come down to those two teams, in terms of who's gonna, take the title home with them. But just because I think that those are maybe the kind of two standout teams doesn't mean I'm like any less, excited to take a look at what Jamaica does in this tournament, or what the Czech Republic does in this tournament. I love that you brought up, Czech Republic is a really tough team essentially to play
Mhm.
against. They could really clog up some of the field and make things really really frustrating for the opposition. So it almost makes me excited for that Czech Republic Spain kind of
Yeah,
matchup, because Spain is a team that we all know likes to
completely.
build through possession and sort of win through possession. And what does that look like when you are facing up against a team that is inviting that? Do you want to keep the ball? Great, we're gonna let you keep it, but you can't. We're gonna make it hard for you to kind of get past it. So there's some interesting matchups here, but I'm with you in that I think that Spain are the favorites, but I think that Australia might make things interesting down the line.
Yeah,
We've
I
got
I
this
agree. I
one.
think the Czech Republic Spain match is going to be very, very interesting because,
Yeah.
like, they always throw up stats on the screen too. Like the possession stat in that game is going to be crazy. So heavily favored for Spain. The last match day, February 22nd on Wednesday. That'll be the Spain Czech Republic game that we'll see then.
Yeah, like if it comes down to points, I'm just kind of
Mhm.
like, like what's gonna happen here on this final day.
I
And
know.
that I think that's again another keynote. There's a dates in that one. This tournament taking place from kicking off on the 16th through to the 22nd, because that's really the familiar. timeline for a lot of these round robin style competitions. There's a lot of them kicking off on either the 15th or the 16th and running through the 21st and the 22nd. But there's still a few tournaments that we want to go through, maybe talk about the teams, maybe make a couple picks. So make sure you stay with us. We'll be back right after a quick break.
We're really breaking through and we're opening doors for the next generation.
If you see someone who looks like you doing things out of the ordinary, it would encourage you that you can do the same thing or better.
Someone at some point might feel inspired just by the existence of these stories.
You can't always do what you're told.
Now we get to be in places of authority. Now I get to be a captain. Let's fly.
All right, we're back. Let's chat some more about the round robin style tournaments that will be taking place during the FIFA February International Window. This next tournament is unique in the sense that it's kind of in its first edition, the first ever Women's Revelations Cup hosted by Mexico. Doing a little bit of our preview here. We've got Mexico as a host, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Nigeria will be participants in this first edition of the tournament. Going to take place in León, Guanajuato during February. All of these are taking place during February, kicking off on the 15th through the 21st. We've got count them, three World Cup participating nations in this tournament. You'll love to see it. Any of the competitions that have three-ish type of World Cup bound team, I think are really intriguing competitions. She Believes Cup is the only tournament that's going to have all four World Cup participating nations. Some of the others are three, and Revelations Cup in Mexico is one of those. Now, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting competition because although Mexico didn't qualify for the World Cup, it's a second consecutive failure to qualify for the program. And I think with that was part of the motivation to launch another tournament like this for the senior program. They're a program that's trying to turn things around. And I think in light of that failure to qualify, they've got some time in front of them till 2027 to try to get some things together, to try to build as a program, as a team. I think they've tried to make that first step in making a new head coaching hire. We saw at the conclusion of the CONCACAF W Championship that despite a lot of the good work and a lot of the very cool things that we got to see under the tenure of Mónica Vergara, unfortunately, she did not accomplish the main goal, which was to get this team back to the World Cup. And due to their exit, there was also an exit for Vergara. So they needed to make a new hire. And they went and they hired Pedro Lopez, who had spent all of his career really with Spain. So they went outside the box a little bit. This for me is considered a little bit of an out of the box hire for this program because for so long, since its foundation, it's really been sort of, Mexican Federation in-house coaching led so long by Leo Cuellar. We're talking over the span of almost 2 decades, then his son getting involved in the Mex and Chris Cuellar, Roberto Medina, someone who was sort of part of that Leo Cuellar kind of coaching tree, and Mónica Vergara as well, even though she was a former player and had a lot of great experiences to bring into that head coaching role as someone who also coached the U teams, whether it was U17 or U20, was also someone under that Cuellar family coaching tree. So to have Pedro Lopez in this head coaching role, it's a little bit different. I guess it could be considered one of those out of the box hires. And this really might be the first opportunity for this team to try to get those first steps in terms of competition against other nations. And I love that it's Nigeria. I love that it's Costa Rica, a CONCACAF rival, and I love that it's a CONMEBOL rival in Colombia. But when I'm looking at all four of these teams, Lisa, when I'm looking at Mexico, Colombia, Nigeria, Costa Rica, I really think the two to watch out for are going to be Colombia and Nigeria. And I think I'm going to give the edge a little bit to Colombia. I think they're going to be the ones lifting the first ever Women's Revelation Cup in Mexico.
Oh, you heard it here first. I like that prediction. I agree. I want to go back to what you initially said. The fact that Mexico is not in the World Cup. I know that's tough for you. I mean, it's tough for a lot of people, but I think that's really what jazzed them up to have this tournament and to be the hosts of it, right? Like to be able to get in these other nations in Costa Rica, Colombia, and Nigeria that are all going to the World Cup and say, hey, we're going to have this really good competition. We're going to host it. We'll get other World Cup teams here. I think that to me, it's already looking like a page is being turned on this federation in Mexico about where they want this program to go, where they want to be in the next 4 years. And that is back at a World Cup. And this is kind of setting the tone for how you get there over the next couple of years. I really like this tournament, and the fact that it's the first of its kind makes it a little bit more special, right? A lot of these tournaments are new, right? We're talking about their second year, their first year, all with respects or besides the She Believes Cup that is in its seventh or eighth, ninth year of existence at this point. So the fact that they took this Revelations Cup and decided to advance it from just a youth tournament to this women's tournament is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about these different nations and looking at their FIFA rankings, right? We know Colombia is the highest in this one. They're ranked 27th right now. Mexico, who's not in the World Cup, ranked 35th. Costa Rica, 37th, and Nigeria, 45. But those rankings, I don't think are very telling of the actual talent that these nations have. Because as you mentioned, Nigeria is one of these teams that I'm keeping an eye on. I want to know what they're doing. We saw the United States play them in September of last year. And although the United States beat them both times, those were 2 wins for the U.S. The competition that Nigeria can put up against teams is incredible. It's really fun to watch. And then you look at teams like Costa Rica and Colombia, they've got recent history against each other. They played during that September FIFA window. Colombia won both times. I think it was 1-0 and 2-0 over Costa Rica, but that's going to be a matchup that those two teams very familiar with each other and they meet again in such short succession again in this Revelations Cup. But to me, Colombia, Mexico, that's a game. That is the match that I am so excited to
Love
see. I
that.
think Colombia will maybe come out on top of this tournament, right? If we're making those predictions, I'm with you on that one. Colombia is going to raise the first ever Revelations Cup trophy, but I want to watch Colombia, Mexico. That's a game I'm hands down excited to see.
You know, I'm high on this Colombia team. You know, I'll just be frank
Yeah.
about it. Um, I was excited to watch their run during that epic summer of soccer in July 2022. They ended up as runners up in the Copa America Femenina, falling to reigning longtime champions Brazil. But the players that they've got on this team, there's a lot of really good individual pieces, young players
Yeah, very
on this
young.
team that have sort of been building together for quite some time. And I think when you're looking at this short timeline in the build up to the World Cup, establishing that cohesion is very, very important. But I feel like this is a team that might have a little bit of that already just because of the amount of time that they have spent together already at this point. So, taking a look at, just sort of that run that they had in the summer, but how, they're not unfamiliar with playing CONCACAF competition either, right? Even though it's two different confederates, whether it's CONCACAF or CONMEBOL, the Latin American diaspora is not unfamiliar with going head to head, right? So coming off of that runners-up finish against Brazil, then having a couple friendlies against Costa Rica and coming out winners on that one, and then winners against Paraguay, winners against Zambia. So it's like they're going into this tournament, this Revelations Cup, on a bit of a win streak already. Like they're undefeated, I think, like in their last 4 to 6 matches. So I just am like keeping an eye on that. And I'm just kind of like, I think if you're going into this type of competition, that maybe they could be considered favorites. But on the other side of that, like I said, I'm looking at Nigeria with some similar energy. If they're a fully healthy team, I think they're really going to
Right.
some things up during this type of tournament. So definitely keep an eye on it for sure. Moving into February, that one, like I said, kicking off on the 15th, concluding on the 21st. Similar timeline for Tournoi de France. We've got the French round robin style tournament that is also taking place during this window. We've got France, Denmark, Norway, and Uruguay. They are all competing in this year's editions of Tournoi de France. When I'm looking at this one, I want to go with France, Lisa, but I
I
really
know.
think any of Norway or Denmark could crush and wreck some dreams.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's a highly competitive competition. I think this is another one of these tournaments that has not just one, not just two, but three World Cup bound nations. So it's going to
Totally.
provide for some pretty narrow margins.
And these games are actually on like the days before all of the other games. So they are going to play Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. So hey, you can
Yeah.
watch all of these. You don't have to compete. So that's something I like to see. Just a little scattering in the game days, so I can spread it out. Yeah, this is a very exciting tournament because I really want to see like France, Denmark, France, Norway, Denmark. These are nations that play each other right consistently, and they have that competition going against each other. I think France is my favorite in this one to come out on top. This is their tournament that they're hosting, but the competition's going to be there, right? But for all of these, and there's so much on the line for all of these nations, whether we're talking about the She Believes or the Arnold Clark or the Revelations or the Cup of Nations or even the Tournoi de France, because these nations are going to the World Cup, and the ones that aren't, right? There's at least one nation in all of these tournaments that aren't. They're looking to prove to themselves. They're looking to prove to their nation, to their federation that they can do this, because the quick turnaround from 4 years between World Cups is just rapid.
Yeah.
And that's what these nations are looking to prove, and they've got to stay on top of it. They've got to stay tough and fit. And hey, when it comes down to it, if you're a team that can say, hey, I beat France or whoever you beat, and then they go on to kind of excel in the World Cup, it looks much better on you, right? It comes all back to that. But I'm excited about this one. I think France is going to be a top dog, top powerhouse hosting it, and just looking at the competition between Uruguay, Norway, and Denmark in this one.
Yeah, I think if you're a team like Uruguay, like you mentioned, a team that's kind of sticking out as a nation that's not going to the World Cup, but also this is a nation that has to, we talk a lot about different programs in different regions of the globe and how those teams can look like if they had more support or more resources. So I'm looking for a team like Uruguay to get into, tournaments like this and try to really get a lot of experience out of those and try to piece together like just strong 90-minute performances. I think those are the things that programs like that are looking to maybe accomplish in windows like this. And they're definitely going to have to try to game plan for a Denmark, a Norway, and a France.
Oh yeah.
Those aren't the only ones. I know we've taken a couple deep dives on some of these round robin style tournaments. We have a segment out there about Arnold Clark Cup. We've got a preview coming up for you at She Believes Cup. And we've taken some looks on this episode at Cup of Nations already. We've chatted about Revelations Cup and right now Tournoi de France. But there's a lot of other things that are happening during this particular week of time. The Pinatar Cup is taking place. It's going to feature Iceland, Philippines, Scotland, and Wales. Philippines are going to be debutantes at the 2023 World Cup. So this is going to be a unique opportunity for them. There's also the Cyprus Women's Cup that is taking place during this window of time, featuring Croatia, Finland, Hungary, and Romania. And then there's also the epic Alanya Women's Tournament, which has a number of World Cup teams sprinkled within there. That's going to be hosted by Turkey, although we're still awaiting some updates on that. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are out there. It's terrible scenes that we're witnessing out there. But Uzbekistan, Slovenia, Venezuela, Zambia, and South Africa are the two World Cup teams that are supposed to participate in this tournament. And the other remaining teams that are going to participate in it are Jordan, Hong Kong, Estonia, North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Bulgaria. So a plethora of teams
Yeah,
involved
a lot.
in this particular tournament, but within them, 2 African nations that will participate in the upcoming 2023 World Cup. So while we're taking a couple deep dives in some of these other tournaments, there are some other competitions that will take place as well. But one of the things that we did want to take a deep dive on outside of these very specific round robin style windows is the Inter-Confederation Playoff. That is going to take place during this official February window as well. And we've got 10 teams that are vying for 3 final spots in the World Cup. There are 3 groups that are still awaiting the 4th team in those groups. That includes Group E with the United States women's national team. Right now, it's the United States, Netherlands, and Vietnam. They're awaiting the winner of Portugal, Cameroon, and Thailand. One of those 3 nations will join up in Group E. Group A playoff are those 3 teams. Portugal, Cameroon, Thailand. We've got Group B featuring Chile, Senegal, and Haiti. And then we've got a Group C playoff with 4 teams: Chinese, Taipei, Papua New Guinea, Paraguay, and Panama. So, Lisa, I want to ask you. We are
Yeah,
listen. We come here with full CONCACAF hearts every time we
we
talk about
do.
international windows on Attacking Third. When you're looking at these groups, each A, B, or C, is there someone that you're looking at as sort of a clear favorite to exit these groups?
Honestly, no, there's not one nation that I'm like, yes, like you're gonna go all the way, because I think the competition at this point is really, really tight and really tough. I think Portugal, when I look at the Group A, I think they're a nation I might say, hey, you might have a higher chance of getting out, right? They are the top seed in this one. But as you mentioned, the CONCACAF, like I have a very soft spot in my heart for Haiti. This is a team that during the qualifiers were unstoppable, scoring goals, keeping shutouts. They had a 44 plus goal differential. I will never get over that. Haiti was so impressive to watch, but they're going up against Chile, who's the top seed in that Group B playoff group that we're looking at. I think that the competition against Senegal as well is going to be really tough. I mean, these are some really good teams coming into this. If anything, I think Portugal might be one team that'll give a lot of other teams a bit of a run for their money. But the craziest thing is there are 10 teams competing in this for only 3 spots, 6 confederations competing in this for 3 spots. Massive. And we talked about how in Cup of Nations, it's a nice opportunity for some nations to play where they will be playing in the World Cup. Same goes for this Inter-Confederation tournament, because it's going to be happening in New Zealand in 2 different World Cup venues. So some travel for these teams heading back and forth in New Zealand. But when you kind of look at how it's broken down by confederation, UEFA only has Portugal, Oceania only has Papua New Guinea, but all the other ones have 2, whether it's Asia and Chinese Taipei and Thailand, Africa with Cameroon and Senegal. CONCACAF, right, has Haiti and Panama, and then CONMEBOL with Chile and Paraguay. These are nations that like they're looking to prove themselves. This is their opportunity. You just gotta win your group, right? Win your group
It's so
and you get
simple.
through. It's so simple. It just sounds so simple when we
Yeah.
put it like that. And of course it's not. Of course it's not. What about you when you look at these, whether it's your top seeds in Portugal, Chile, when you're looking at them, is there anyone in particular that you're like, yeah, you could come out on top? You've got a spot. You've got one of the spots
Yeah.
secured.
I'm not going to come on here and act like I'm not going to be, wide-eyed and full of joy to see a possibility of multiple CONCACAF nations in the World Cup, depending on how these Inter-Confederation playoffs go. I don't know if I want to see a team like Haiti in the World Cup if I'm the opposition, but I know Sandra needs to see it. I would love to see it. I want to see Haiti in the 2023 World Cup so badly. But looking at these, I think it's also maybe important for us to kind of talk about like the breakdown of the Inter-Confederation
Right.
Playoffs. So like it's a little bit different than what we've been chatting about with some of these other competitions. We were talking about how they're round robin style tournaments, right? There's going to be 3 games across the board with a lot of these teams. They will have them with a couple, maybe a day or a half or two in between
Yeah.
those matches. This one is already it's going to be like the format of like a semifinal game and then a final match. So it's like each
Right.
team, like not every team is going to play each other, so it's interesting in that sense. It's like it's a must-win scenario for the 2 stages of that you're getting through. So for example, like I know a lot of folks are maybe keeping an eye on Group A with Portugal, Thailand, and Cameroon. Well, Portugal already has a direct bye to that final match, so they're only going
Exactly.
to play one match. So Cameroon and Thailand are going to play in a semifinal to face to face Portugal in
Mhm.
that final match, and the winner of that match wins the group. And
Yep.
same thing with Group B.
Chile.
Chile, based on rankings, they're already waiting the winner of Senegal and Haiti. So whoever is the winner of Senegal and Haiti in that semifinal is going to face Chile in that final, and the winner of that final will be the winner of Group B. So then it's a little bit different with Group C with the 4 teams. There is going to be like a Final Four a semifinal kind of playoff, and then those 2 winners will face each other. So it's very interesting to sort of take a look at
Yeah.
how this is gonna how this is gonna kind of pan out. But I think when you're looking at Group A, you're looking at a team like Portugal, which is funny because you look at who else is in there. Thailand at this point has had some experience already as a program that has featured in the World Cup. And then you have Cameroon that has the same scenario. They are not strangers to participating in a World Cup. So I do think of these 3 groups, this might be one of the stronger of the pool of teams.
Yeah.
But I do have Portugal coming out of Group A. Listen, Group B, I'm going all in. I want Haiti to win Group B, and then when I'm looking at Group C, listen, Chinese Taipei, when we were covering
Huge. Yeah.
the Women's Asian Cup, they definitely surprised me in a lot of different areas. So I think they could absolutely like play spoiler in this one. But look, I want to see Panama come out of Group C. So hopefully we get not just one but 2 CONCACAF
I
nations
know.
coming out of this one.
It's
But I
possible.
do think
It's possible for
it
sure. Like,
it is possible. I do think that these of all of the matches that are taking place during this window of time, I think you can go through each one and find a lot of intriguing angles and storylines to take a look at, right? But this one, the Inter-Confederation
huge.
Playoff, is the one that has massive stakes on the
Oh,
line. So,
completely, completely.
and it's
And
gonna
then
be it's gonna be quite the tournament.
it is, and so the winners of each of the groups, right, move on. And I know that the favorites, of course, are the top seeds according to FIFA are Portugal and Chile, and that's why they get a kind of like a first round bye in this Inter-Confederation tournament. But when you
Yeah.
look at that Group C with the 4 teams, that's like yes, of course, like I'm going to be watching Group A, I'm going to be watching Group B, and I'm going to be watching Group C. But when I'm looking at Group C, like we get to get 3 matches out of this
Yeah.
group because it's almost like a semifinal round and then you move on. So I'm excited to see that and kind of excited to see the difference in competition from the first game to the second game throughout that Group C. But there is definitely a lot on the line. I mean, when you look at the overall World Cup draw, there are a lot of implications. And for those that are watching us and listening to us for the US content, this is where the United States finds out who their third competition is in Group E. It's that Group A playoff winner
Yeah.
with Portugal, Cameroon, and Thailand. Portugal being the top seed, the favorite in that group, our favorite as well. You and I, we both picked Portugal to be the ones to get out of that Group A. But you also look at Group D in the World Cup, the Group B playoff winner. So that'll be Chile, Senegal, or Haiti jumping into Group D with England, Denmark, and China PR. And then the last one in Group F already has France, Jamaica, and Brazil. So they could see Chinese Taipei, Papua New Guinea, Paraguay, or Panama jumping into that group of death. I'm going to call
It's
it a
such a
little bit.
chaotic group. I'm like, I'm listening to you read off and rattle off these World Cup groups as they currently stand. And then of course, we're doing this as the show. So I'm also looking at the visual and I'm just like, gosh, like some of these groups,
Yeah.
even just with the 3 teams, already have the opportunity to get even a little more chaotic. So we'll see. Again, I don't want to say it's going to be more exciting than what we experienced and covered in July 2022. But I do feel like it's going to be a little bit more intense because it's not this sort of month-long, kind of 2-week to 3-week long kind of energy. We've just got this 1 week of time, this one window of time, and there's going to be all of these games happening all at once. So it's going to be, in that sense, a little bit more chaotic in terms of the energy that's out there. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Lisa's here for it. Attacking Third is here for it. Watch these games when and where you can, because you know that the two of us are going to be right back here chatting about all of the results and everything that took place during this time. But that's all we've got for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to Attacking Third. Download, follow, and listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you watch us too. You can subscribe on YouTube to get alerts for whenever we go live, youtube.com/attacking third. Leave those comments. We want to hear from you. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.